What up, nation? Welcome to another edition of the WiseTake NBA Wise Stream. CK013 here. You can find me on Twitter at CK_013. And I, of course, am from the WiseTake Nation, which you can find on all the social media platforms listed above. And if you are ready to take your DFS game to the next level, you can check us out at WiseTake.com. We are a premium DFS content provider as well as a DFS community designed to make you a better DFS player. We got a small slate today. We got a special guest joining us in the second half of the show. When we bring on Paulie, we will also be bringing on our boy Bobby Fi, aka Bobby Firestone, to talk about the slate. We'll ask him a few questions about DFS, all that good stuff. So should be interesting. I mentioned that we're going to try to incorporate more guests when we can. We have a couple lined up, just a matter of scheduling. And feedback is always greatly appreciated if you like when we bring on different guests and all that kind of stuff. Or if you don't, either way, we like to know. So don't be shy. Show up in the chat. Voice your opinion as it goes on. It was a pretty good day, I thought, to bring on a guest, being that we have a four-game slate. Real quick, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure you hit the notifications bell as well, so you're notified whenever we do go live. We do all kinds of free content here on this channel. We're on Twitch. We're on Periscope. We're everywhere. So don't miss out. Monday through Friday, you can catch. We typically do 2 shows a day. The early look, when I have time, I do, but the Wise stream will always be there for the most part, as long as I'm available. So subscribe. Don't miss out. We cover all kinds of sports. We had our PGA stream last night, or maybe it was 2 nights ago now. We've got an esports stream coming up this week. Our NASCAR streams have been pretty good, doing those before lock as well. And if you haven't hit the like button, please hit the like button. The likes allow us to continue to do more free content, allow us to continue to do thy dirty to thy neighbor on YouTube. And we really need your help for that, because we just one person here. So if you guys can hit the like button, it really helps us out, goes a long way. And like I said, that's the way that we're able to do the free content. And we want to keep doing it. We I personally like talking to y'all, the interactions we have with the chat and everything like that. So the likes go a long way. Please smash it if you haven't already. Obviously, I'm expecting more people to kind of file in as we continue. But in the meantime, we're going to go ahead and get to it. We've got, we don't have to rush, right? We got plenty of time. And part 2 is not starting until 6. I guess I could have started this at 5:30, but I just couldn't wait to go live and talk to the nation. And to be honest with you, I'm having like some allergies right now too. So I'm not even feeling great, but I just couldn't let it stop me today from hanging out with the nation, talking to the nation. So we're going to do, hopefully you guys are interactive on this first show, because we're going to need some time to kind of kill. And hopefully you guys ask some questions. Since I do these solo shows, I always try to interact with the chat when I can, going in between games and everything like that, just to see if there's any questions, or just honestly get your guys' input and see what you guys think. So we'll continue to do that as we write it out. As always, the projections and the cheat sheets are ready. They've been ready all day at WiseTake.com for WiseTake Nation subscribers. Our cheat sheets you can find in the NBA section. It's not a post, it's an actual page. You'll see it in the NBA DFS menu. For FanDuel and DraftKings, they are now automated to reflect our projections. So same format, all the positions, tiers, upper end, mid-tier value. And the difference is it's sorting it by it's sorting it in a point per dollar order. So the best stud players, point per dollar order. The best mid-tier, point per dollar order, etc. So I thought that was a really cool feature. We've already had a few members that have had success using it. And I think it's a way to kind of, get the message across. Paulie still writes has taken over the Core Plays article. He's done an outstanding job with that. Our cash game guys, Stevie Brown and Matt, I like to call him Schreibezy, but Schreibzy, I think, is the actual nickname he goes by. But they've been doing an outstanding job with the cash games, man. I gotta say that this year NBA, it's amazing. Obviously, we don't get as many views or whatever as we used to get back in the day when before Osimo was around and whatnot, and before I went through the hardships that we went through. But the content has never been better, honestly. Like, forget about the shows, but our actual content of the site, the projections, those are the projections that I use. The ones you see on the screen that we're going to go through and all that, those are the ones I use. I make them. I work on them all day as getting in news, making adjustments. And, I pop these bad boys into an optimizer. I have switched the optimizer I use. Some of you know which one I used to use. Currently using Lineup HQ, which it's got the same features. It's been working fine for me. So I'll continue to do it. I'd mentioned last night I had 100% Jakob Poeltl, which sucked in theory. However, I did manage to profit only $50, nothing crazy, but I did manage to profit even with 100% Jakob. So I guess I got enough of the other stuff right. I did have like 20% Karis LeVert, and we talked about a lot of those plays. Talked about how DeRozan was probably my favorite play on the slate. Luka was my favorite stud. They all did dirties, so it was cool. And really, for Podol, it wasn't his fault. I mean, he did well for the 11 minutes he got. It was just, the coach. And that's the one thing we always talked about it. That's the toughest thing to predict. We talk about how predicting minutes and all that is tough. Circumstances, foul trouble, game flow, all that kind of shit can make that difficult. But at the end of the day, there's nothing quite like getting screwed by your coach. Now, one of the things that we've talked about recently, when situations arise, when there's a big injury and we expect someone to start, or it could be another person, we always want to go with the starter. Trey Lyles started at center. He didn't do all that well, but had I known he was going to start and Podol wasn't, then I would definitely have lowered the exposure. Unfortunately, I got the notification that Podol was not starting literally at 8:30 Eastern, which is what time the game started. So at that point, it was too late to even late swap. So, on FanDuel, you're playing this game all the time. So you know what the risk is. You understand what it is. On DraftKings, you're supposed to have the late swap feature, which is nice. But at the end of the day, the teams and the coaches have to cooperate. And Pop, man, as good of a coach as he is, he's been a pain in my ass for years with the fantasy output. But all in all, it wasn't a bad day. And again, all I did, I put the projections in the lineup HQ. I usually use like a 2 unique, 2 random type setting. Boom, popped it away, 170 teams, and fire them up in the contest. So that's it. That's my process. So I spend the majority of my time doing the projections, so that, because at the end of the day, no matter what optimizer you're using, the projections are the brains, more or less. So the optimizer, I guess, is the body. The projections are the brains. That's what tells the optimizer what to do. It tells it what the good plays are. So they're very important. And of course, our projections, as always, are available for download at WiseTake.com for NBA subscribers, or all monthly, all sports subscribers, whatever. But yeah, process has been simplified. Like I said, I've just put all my time into the projections. That's my contribution as far as content goes at WiseTake. And now that it's automated, the cheat sheets are a part of that process as well. I apologize if y'all see me yawning. I'm pumped for this slate. I'm actually really excited for this slate, but I got some allergies that have been kicking my ass. Maybe my dog has something to do with it. I don't know. Those of you that see the pictures of the puppy, I did put it on the Twitter at CK_013. So a lot of you guys already liked it, appreciate it. But since I got him, which I think was like, it's been 5 days now, we've done a few shows. People keep asking to see him. So it's up there. Go check it out if you want. He's sleeping right now like a straight fool. Motherfucker. I got one pair of sneakers. I'm just not a big, I don't buy material things a lot, but one pair of nice sneakers, black Air Force Ones, and I caught this mother sucker chewing on them shits. Not good. Other than that, he's really good. So hit the like button if you haven't already. People are starting to pile in. I see Dan T. What's happening? Daniel D. What up? Diego. CK was good. Let's do the dirty. Let's do the dirt tonight. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, that's the kind of stuff I like to hear. That's the kind of stuff I like to see. That's what we plan on doing. That's the plan every night. But I'm feeling pretty good about this one. I feel like I was lucky to profit yesterday, and I don't want to waste it. I want to keep the momentum going and see if we could take some shit down tonight. Right? It's a 4-game slate, so on the one hand, it's going to be very chalky, no doubt about that. On the other hand, the separations could be a little bit bigger. You know what I mean? What up, Juice? Hey, better late than never, man. That was my motto growing up. I actually have a weird thing with time, which is funny because I know a lot of times I start the shows later than I want to, and a lot of that is because I'm doing it all, I do the projections, I do the producing here. I'm pretty much on, 90% of the shows, pretty much all the NBA shows for the most part. So a lot of it is timing between getting everything set up and all that stuff. So I apologize that I am late once in a while. But to be honest, like in my personal life, I can't stand being late. It's like a thing of mine. My father was in the military. Maybe that's something to do with it. But I just got to think about being late. I can't stand it. So, but with that said, whenever I was late, that was my answer. Better late than never, right? I got 2 of them. Better late than never. What's the other one? Better late than never. And I got more time than money. Right. What are some of your favorite expressions? Like I said, we got time, man. We got a 3-game slate. We have a 2-hour show. We have the second hours already booked up. We got Bobby Fight coming on with Paulie and myself. I have a little 3-man action. Ask Bobby some questions. Get everybody's opinion on the slate. But we got some time to fill. So drop to me some of your favorite like life expressions. Like, you know what I'm talking about. And quotes, whatever you want to call it. And I'll review it after we get into this. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and start. Let's jump into the NBA part while I wait for you guys to kind of catch it. Tried to wait for some people to file in, but it is what it is. The show must go on. We are going to start off with the New York Knicks visiting the Philadelphia 76ers. We discussed earlier that both of these teams are on the back end of a back-to-back. I think it's a 4-6 for Philly. Total here is 210, down from 212.5. The 76ers opened up -7.5. When we did the show earlier at the early look, they were actually, I think it was down to 6.5. It's back up to 7. So, for whatever that's worth. Philly is a little banged up, obviously missing Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons. I guess really banged up. Those are two of their best players, but or at least two of their better players. Embiid, I think, is their best, right? But at the same time, also they've got a phenomenal home record. Philly, right? Like terrible on the road, really good at home. Kind of confusing, but it is what it is. Starting with the New York Knicks, the road team, like I mentioned, on the back end of a back-to-back. Same thing as earlier. Nothing's really changed. I think Frank Nitty's officially ruled out, so I guess I can go ahead and make some adjustments there. Might as well do that with you guys here. He got ruled out like right before we went live, which is standard. It's like the typical, right? I'm about to start one project, something else pops up to pull me away. That's just life. But it is what it is, right? Excuses. Oh, here's another one. Here's another one I love. One of my favorites. Seriously, one of my favorite expressions for life. Excuses are like assholes. Everyone has one, and they all stink, right? I love that one. Let me see real quick. Big boy Frank. I gotta take Frank out of here. Frank Ntilikina. Frank Nitty, that's what we call him, because it took me forever to learn how to pronounce his name. Let me find you. So I'm going to actually give Elf a couple more minutes because I think he's an interesting tournament play. Anyway, I'll explain in a second. This stuff gets pretty confusing. And bang. All right, so starting with the Knicks, give it a second to update. I did just take some of those players out. So Elfrid Payton is probably one of the more polarizing players for me on this slate. So the matchup got a little bit better, assuming Shake Milton is the starter. It's better than Ben Simmons, I would think. It is a possibility that J. Rich covers him, but I don't know if Elf's offense warrants that type of attention. The reason I think Elf is interesting is because we know he has triple-double upside. He doesn't do it often, but he has that type of upside. We've seen it before. We used to see it a lot more for the Magic than we've seen for New Orleans or the Knicks. But I think he's going to be really low owned, so that's kind of interesting. With that said, he doesn't project very well for us at his price, so you would have to kind of go out of your way to do it. Maybe in a game stack, I always say I'm willing to overpay for players if I'm doing a game stack. The problem is both these teams are on a back-to-back schedule-wise. They're not in ideal situations, and this is the lowest total on the board. But for what it's worth, if you like it, if you get down, I think Elf is one of the guys I'd play. Julius Randle would be the main option, right? But he got 25 minutes yesterday against Charlotte. I mean, he looked like he was playing well. I'm not sure why he only got 25 minutes. They decided to close with like Bobby Portis. And you know, those are the risks you're going to take when you have a team that's not playing for anything. Obviously, the Knicks are one of the worst in the game, so they're not playing for nothing. We see it happen with the Cavaliers, right? They traded for Andre Drummond just to not play him. So play him like 22 minutes a game. So maybe that's what's going on. Maybe it was just a fluke. Maybe it's because it was a back-to-back. They figured, let's save him. I'm not really sure. But Randall would be, I mean, he's their primary offensive option. And he has been pretty much all season, with the exception of maybe Marcus Morris, who's not here anymore. So those would be the first two primary options, like in a game stack. Those are the first two I'm looking at. I think Mitchell Robinson for tournaments could be interesting, but his minutes are really tough to project. RJ Barrett could play more point guard. He was another one that saw reduced minutes last night for no real good reason. DSJ, we anticipate playing backup point guard. We're just not sure how many minutes he's going to get. So that's the problem with the Knicks. It's the same situation whenever you play a really bad team. It's kind of hard to project. Hard to predict, which makes it hard to project. And, you know, at the same time, I do believe that for the sake of ownership, that the Knicks are all going to be very low owned. So if you can find or stomach one of these guys to roster, it's really low owned. But I just can't recommend to get any high exposures because the probability Doesn't look great. Again, I apologize for the yawning. I think I got some allergy shit going down. Hopefully it's not my dog. I'm pretty sure I'm not allergic. I've been around dogs before, never felt any way. Hopefully it's not him. I think it's just allergies because it seems worse when I go outside. Anyway, so that's where I'm at with the Knicks. I think they're fine tournament plays. Game stack is on the table. I know it's got the lowest total. The pace is not going to be great, but if this game happens to go to overtime, whatever the case may be, and I know the Knicks are terrible, but Philly is on a tough schedule stretch, and they're missing two of their best players. So anything is possible, as Kevin Durant would say. On the Sixers side, we have a lot more interest. Al Horford and Jay Rich and Tobias Harris. I like those guys a lot, all three of them. Tobias is easier to reach on FanDuel. On DraftKings at 7.5, I still like him. But I'm likely to have a little bit less than him than Richardson, who I'll have a little bit less than Al Horford. My fourth option is Shake Milton. Only one sample to work with, but in his last game, and he's been starting, but in his last game, he played like 37 minutes. So I thought that was very interesting. And, the Knicks have been awful against point guards lately. Frank Nitti is their best point guard defender. Not that he's on the court a ton anyway, but the Knicks have been hemorrhaging points to point guards in general, fantasy points anyway. So I'm very interested in Shake Milton at the position. FanDuel only 4,300 certainly stands out quite a bit. Alec Burks is the question mark. I'm waiting to see a starting lineup. So in the second half, when Embiid didn't return to the game, they started Matisse Thybulle, who really hasn't been playing much. He's really known as a defender, not really as a scorer, so it's possible they start Alec Burks or Furkan Korkmaz or something like a little bit different and not him, being that the Knicks don't really have a scoring dominant wing player, so we'll have to wait and see. I mean, I thought that they were going to use Burks a lot more than they have. I'm a little confused as to why they even traded for him. But I mean, I think he's got the talent. I think he's really cheap. If he is starting, I will feel a lot more comfortable raising his minutes. I might have his minutes a little too low for the time being, but even with Embiid out, I think he only played like 18 or 19 minutes anyway. But definitely someone we have on the radar. Norv Pele is available to play. I don't have him projected for minutes because he's been out for a little bit. But he's available to play, so I would be careful with the Kyle O'Quinns and taking shots on that. I'm sticking with the main guys, which is Al Horford, Jay Rich, Tobias, Shake Milton. And again, like I said, whoever is starting in that role. If Furkan is starting, I'm okay with him for tournaments. If it's Alec Burks, I'll probably be willing to load up because he's so cheap. If it's Thybulle, I don't think I'm that interested. He's really cheap. I don't know. Just don't see it. But I'm going to have a lot of Al Horford, a lot of Richardson, good amount of Tobias, good amount of Shake Milton. And, when we get the starting lineup, we'll react like we always do because we always say NBA DFS is in my opinion, a reaction sport, right? You got to react to the news. So we'll have to see. You react to the news, but you need the news. So hopefully we get some of that news and it's not no bullshit like the Spurs pulled on us last night. Tom Brady update, not really useful at this particular moment. Okay, so we got some. I'm popping in the chat real quick. Yeah, y'all are learning. Dan T knows, man. He knows. He must be, he knows. Do thy dirty to thy neighbor, or else thy dirty will get done to you. That's right. That's right. Life lessons right there. I love it. Colt asks, how do I feel about Milton? I like him, man. I mean, he got 37 minutes last night. It's only one game, so we don't want to assume. But, I mean, he's been playing well whenever he's played this role. So I'm interested. I think I do like him. Now, we have a lot of interesting point guards on the slate. There's a lot to get to. I don't like him necessarily as much as Horford and Richardson and Tobias because I know their roles. But I do like Shake Milton. Assuming that he starts, assuming that he gets similar minutes. Even if he got 30 minutes at that price, I'm cool with it, especially on FanDuel. Russell Skids. Life is like, I like this one. Life is like a shit sandwich. The more bread you have, the less shit you eat. That is true. That is true. That's perfectly fitting for DFS. That's the dream, right? That's why everybody's here, right? Obviously for a lot of you, or most of you, it's a hobby, something to do for fun. But in the end of the day, you can't tell me when you're doing any kind of gambling that you don't want to win, right? Like you don't just gamble to donate money to XYZ across the table from you in poker or to donate to the casinos, right? Regardless of what your goal is, a lot of people do it just for fun. They just want to have a good time. If they lose, they don't get that upset. That's great. It's a good way to be mentally a lot less stressful that way. But you can't tell me that if you had a ridiculously big win, you wouldn't be ecstatic, right? Like that's the dream. So I like that one. Life is like a shit sandwich. The more bread you have, the less shit you eat. I like that. Shout out to Russ. Just roll. Do you like Shake better than Bogdanovich on DraftKings? That's kind of interesting. I think I do a little bit, but they're pretty close to me. Like I do like Bogdanovich, but we're waiting on news. Put it this way: right now, Shake I like more. But De'Aaron Fox is questionable with an abdomen injury. If De'Aaron Fox gets ruled out, then I like Bogdanovich a lot, and I will like him more than Shake. Oh, maybe that answers your question. So for now, it is Shake. Should Fox get ruled out, then it's Bogdanovich. Like that. Next up, we got the Portland Trailblazers. Pump in more of them life lessons in there. I want to see more of them. We got the Portland Trailblazers visiting the Indiana Pacers. We have a 217.5 total, which is a little better than the Knicks game, but it is the second lowest on the slate. In terms of schedule, I believe these guys are pretty even, both working with a day off. Both working with a day off and a 3-5, nothing crazy. Starting with the Portland side, we know Dame is out, so we know McCollum's usage has been through the roof. He's really stepped into that Dame role. McCollum's played anywhere from 38 to 43 minutes in regulation with Dame out, and he's pretty much sliding right into his role, taking a ton of shots, getting assists. So I'm good with McCollum. I like him. It's a 4-game slate. Raw points matter. So even though the point per dollar doesn't look as great as for a guy that high, I think raw points may matter. So if you can find ways to work him in, I think you should. I'm curious on the projected ownership of Hassan Whiteside. Not even the projected, right? Because you can project it all day. At the end of the day, you may not, it doesn't mean it's going to be right. But I'm very curious to see what his ownership actually ends up on. Especially because I'm expecting a lot of people to be playing Anthony Davis today. So if you're playing Anthony Davis, I feel like you may have to choose between McCollum or Whiteside, and I'm curious as to which one people would prefer. I personally lean towards McCollum a little bit. That's a little bit of bias, though. I will say this, that if they've ever needed a Whiteside before, I mean, you're going to need him against Sabonis and Turner on the other side. But those are the two first options I like. It's going to be tough to play them together unless you're not playing Anthony Davis, which is tough, but Indiana is a pretty good defensive team in general, so it's not the greatest situation. That's why I guess in that sense that kind of makes Whiteside sound a little bit better. But we've seen guards kind of blow up on Indiana. I mean, if you could shoot, you could shoot at the end of the day. Gary Trent, I'll talk about next as a value option. I'm okay to work him in. He's a little too scoring dependent for me. His fantasy point per minute average is not great. So if he's really efficient from the field, it's going to be great. If he's not, he's going to suck. That's just the typical Gary Trent Jr. Situation. Carmelo Anthony is okay. I mean, on DraftKings, his price is interesting. I'm a little concerned about the matchup. Are they going to match him up with Sabonis? I mean, that could be crazy. And then Trevor Ariza, I don't mind as a value option. Doesn't get me excited. It's really McCollum and Whiteside that I'm honing in on from this team. On the one side, I know McCollum's usage is ridiculously high and it's exciting. On the other hand, it's a good defensive team, so maybe it's better to rely on blocks and rebounds and putbacks and all that kind of stuff. So I'm interested in both for sure. On the Pacers side, so Oladipo is in. I'm assuming he's going to start on FanDuel. He's definitely worth a shot at 4,800 on DraftKings. A little tougher to reach. His projection for this year is like minuscule. I made some adjustments because last year in these kind of minutes, this price would be ridiculously low. I mean, this is a guy that was in the 8Ks most nights. So the usage has been there for the most part, maybe not in the last two games. The minutes aren't full. I know he's not on a restriction anymore, so they could play him, but I think, obviously he aggravated something because he's been missing some time. So I'm on the fence with him on DraftKings. I do feel like his ownership could end up coming in really low, which is tempting me because he's got the 50, 60 point upside. We know he does, and he could really break a slate, but he just hasn't shown it yet. Now, with that said, Portland's defense has been atrocious. So if there was a spot for him to kind of excel, this could be one of those spots. So maybe we'll go back and give him a little bit more just to see if we can get him into some of our teams, right? On FanDuel, you shouldn't have that problem. It should be okay at 4,800. On DraftKings, it's a risk, but again, it's an ownership thing. Like, his ownership is just so low. And again, on both sites, if he was this price last season, it would be 100% owned. It's just too cheap. Both prices. With that said, TJ Warren has played really well lately. Oladipo is back, so I'm curious how that ties in. I think on FanDuel, Warren's price is really attractive. On DraftKings, it's not bad. Sabonis is definitely interesting. A pivot off of Whiteside, a pivot off McCollum, a pivot off Anthony Davis. He was on his way. In 31 minutes, he just smashed, was one assist away from a triple-double. Whiteside has never been a good defender. This is a matchup issue for Portland, the big. Sabonis and Turner, when they're on the court together, there's only one Whiteside. They got one big. So I'm curious to see what Portland does with their starting lineup, but if they try to start Melo against this dude, it's going to get ugly really fucking quick. So we'll have to wait and see. But Sabonis has been playing big minutes. I'm definitely interested. We may have to do a little something to his projection to make sure we get some more. But I'm interested. Miles Turner, if you want to save some money and still get exposure to the situation, is an option. He was really chalky against Charlotte, did really well. We'll have to see. He got there a lot in blocks. Blocks was really how he got there. So when you consider it, don't look at it like, oh, he's going to score a bunch of... He's not a high-usage player anymore. It's just not what he does. Sabonis just goes in there and does dirties. Oladipo's back. That's going to eat even more usage away. But if he can get the blocks and all that stuff is fine. I'm not terribly interested myself in him. But it is what it is. But yeah, I think that Malcolm Brogdon also is worth consideration in tournaments. On FanDuel, his price is ridiculously low. On DraftKings at 7.3, it's okay. It's just okay. Because if Depot was out, I'd be a little cooler with it. With the Depot in, it's just kind of okay for me. That's basically where I'm at with that. Pop into my YouTube friends here. Pop in. Thoughts on CP3 for DK tournament? We'll get to CP3. I'm not a fan of his price today, I can tell you that. But I am a fan of the projected ownership. I'm assuming he's going to come in really low. So we'll talk about that a little bit. Abu Suave. Abu Suv. My bad. Tell me how to pronounce that, bro. I've known you for a minute. I see you all the time, but I've never actually known how to pronounce that. Marlo Stanfield. Shake or Richardson? If I have to pick one, it's Richardson. I just feel more comfortable with his role in the team. I think I'm comfortable with his minutes. Obviously, Shake is cheaper, so he's got the point per minute ceiling. But if I have to pick one, I like them both. If I have to pick one, I'm picking J. Rich because I think his role is more solidified. He's always been a starter. He's going to be a starter as long as he's healthy. And I kind of expect him to get a boost, even though he hasn't really done too great. So it's like a probability thing. I know what his role is. Shake played 37 minutes last time. He could get 25 today. That's just the way Philly rolls. Abrasaiv. Tell me if I said it right. If not, you're going to have to spell it out phonetically for me. My bad. But Abrasaiv is how I read that. Or is it Abrasive? Abrasaiv. You tell me. All right. Let's go on to the next game. Hit the like button, guys, if you haven't already. I see more of you piling in. Appreciate you. Welcome to the WiseTake Nation. Please hit the like button. It really helps us out and allows us to continue to do free content for y'all. All right. Next up, we've got the Sacramento Kings visiting the Oklahoma City Thunder. We've got a 222 total that's gone down from 223. The Kings opened up as 6.5 point underdogs. They're now 7.5 point underdogs. Maybe that has something to do. Maybe that line moved a little bit when they said that De'Aaron Fox was questionable. How does he do it? I don't know. In terms of schedule, which, by the way, guys, I tell everybody on the Early Look show, if you haven't checked out our site, at the very least, even if you don't want to sign up, go check it out for the free stuff. We have a free schedule notes article that our boy J Herb does pretty much every day, and barring like vacation or anything, but he kind of tells you what teams are on a back-to-back, what teams are rested, all that kind of stuff. It's good to know when you start your day and kind of understand that stuff. So make sure that you go check it out if you haven't already. Holla. Yeah, MG with the Bobby Fido. What up, LD? MG says the YouTube chat's not working for him. I don't know, MG. MG from the WiseTake Nation. It's working for everyone, for the others. I see them in there talking to them. But give it a refresh for you today, the plays. You know. LD. OG LD. We got a lot of OGs of the WiseTake Nation. We got some loyal ass members that ride or die with the nation, and that's what we're all about, right? All right, so with the Sacramento side, everything is like the De'Aaron Fox news is very important. Number one, if he plays, he's an interesting tournament option. Number two, if he doesn't, if he's played, everybody else is kind of mediocre. Bogdanovich is fine, but kind of mediocre. On FanDuel at 4.7, a little more interesting. If Fox gets ruled out, then I think Bogdanovich becomes an awesome play on both sides, and even, really everybody gets a boost, but with Alex Len returning and Harrison Barnes playing mega minutes, the rotation can still get a little tough to project, but I would assume that Bogdanovich and Buddy Hield would be the primary two to see significant boost. Maybe Buddy Hield goes back into the starting lineup if that happens. In the meantime, the minutes of the Kings have been kind of weird, and that's like a trademark thing for the coach with Luke Walton. He did the same thing with the Lakers. Didn't like to play guys monster minutes all the time. Was kind of weird with rotations. The one player that's been consistently getting minutes lately is Harrison Barnes. The issue is he's just not a very high point per minute player these days. but he is a minutes play, and he continues to be a minutes play. With Alex Len expected to play, that makes Harry Giles a little more risky. On DraftKings, his price has risen. On FanDuel, I still like Giles, assuming he starts. He's going to have his hands full with Adams on the other side. Adams is a big dude. So he's going to have his hands full. But on FanDuel, 4,500 power forward, it's kind of interesting to say the least. So I don't think it's the worst idea. But again, De'Aaron Fox news is very, very important. Should Fox play, he is a tournament play. And I think that Bogdanovich and Hield, they just become the same thing, nothing but tournament plays. But if he's out, that's going to make them a little more on the optimal side. Oklahoma City is a very good defensive rated team. However, in their last game, they were just blown up by Chicago. Not saying it was a blowout, just saying that they scored a ton of points against them. So obviously it's possible, especially if these guys come out and they're just really efficient. But this is one of the bigger news pieces we're waiting for. So be ready to react when we get the news. Hopefully we get it before lock and we can go over it on the show and kind of address our pivots. But that's also going to open up players like Corey Joseph, maybe Kent Bazemore. So it's going to open up more minutes for a lot of these guys. So again, very, very impactful. We'll see what happens as we continue. But in the meantime, I am interested in Bogdanovich, especially on FanDuel. But I'll be a lot more if Fox gets ruled out. Same thing with Buddy Hield. Same situation, right? Did I even go over the schedule for this? Oh, one thing I forgot to mention, and this it would probably make sense for them to sit De'Aaron Fox if he is dealing with any kind of injury, because if he don't sit today, he'll probably sit tomorrow. Both of these teams have a game tomorrow, so that is one thing I did forget to address. Both of these teams have a game tomorrow. So keep that in mind. If this game does get ugly, they're the most likely to bail and just kind of put in the punt players and move on with their life. It's something, like I said, the schedule is very important. Even when you're betting on games, the NBA schedule is probably the most useful tool you can use as a baseline. So on the OKC side, Gallinari is what he is every day. Unexciting, but a solid play. He's a fine play. It's just nothing exciting. Dennis Schroeder is kind of interesting. I think he could come in a little lower owned. He's projecting well for us on DraftKings. He's been playing around 29 to 30 minutes every game. He got like 32.5 last game. And it's a matchup against Sacramento. I'm fine with him. I think he could come in lower owned. He's priced in the same point of Bogdanovich, priced in the same point of, what's his name from Philly, J. Rich. So it makes sense. Steven Adams has been playing out of his mind. He's been playing really, really well. The price is up there, and he's not getting big minutes. He's getting like 28, 29, 30 minutes. So I didn't want to be a fool and overproject his minutes, but I may have to do something because as of right now, he's not projecting well enough for us to get any, and he's been balling. And this is a phenomenal matchup between Alex Len and Harry Giles. Who's stopping Adams. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is a minutes play, just continues to play monster minutes. He's played a lot better lately. But when the efficiency drops, I'm still worried about the volume. So usage, all that kind of stuff. The minutes are going to be there, though, I think. They're a little down from where they were earlier in the season, but they're still pretty high. Chris Paul. We had some questions about Chris Paul. Ownership is going to be really low. Not a fan of the DraftKings price. The FanDuel price a little bit better. Sacramento's not as fast as they used to be, but I think their defense still sucks. So I'm fine with Chris Paul. I'm fine with a lot of these OKC guys. I think my biggest issue is we have so many teams that have some sort of injury to take advantage of, that if they're not on one of those teams, I'm a little reluctant to go there. Flat out with the Kings, right? I just talked about it. If Fox is in, they're all kind of okay. If Fox is out, they're all become a little more optimal. So being that OKC, assuming that they're fully healthy and good to go, I'm not terribly interested in too many of these guys. I think Adams and Schroeder are the two that stand out to me the most. Gallo being, vanilla, bland, whatever you want to call it. And then, Paul and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander are your low-owned, like super low-owned tournament options. And I do believe they will be pretty low-owned. So I'm okay with them. I just don't love them, right? Like, even on their projection, you can see on DraftKings, the price is just kind of showing up too high. So you really need them to be efficient. But going back to the number one rule, I'm willing to overpay in a game stack. So if you choose this game to do it because you think it's going to be low-owned, that's fine. And then I'm definitely including Chris Paul in at least most of those game stacks if that's the route I'm going. Hold on. Pop back in that YouTube. I'm going to check on y'all now. What we got here? Oh, man, I wasn't even close, bro. Abrasuv. 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 I like that. Abrasuv. See, I would have never guessed that, man. I would have never guessed that. Abrasuv. I like it. Unique, if you will. Appreciate those of you who have hit the like button. I'm checking on the likes, and I see it slowly increasing. Still not to where it needs to be, but it's increasing, and I appreciate that. Thoughts on SGA from my boy Dan. I'm okay with it, man. He's been playing really well his last few games. I'm always good with playing a hot hand. I was a little aggressive with his minutes relative to what he's been playing lately, and so he didn't project too well from us. I don't think I'll get a ton of him, but I'm okay with him for tournaments. I think he's going to be really low owned, and we know he's got the upside to pay this off. I just, like, ceiling is what worries me. Like, is he going to get me, like, okay, so he's got a really good, he's got a shot at getting you 7x, no doubt. Can he get me the 8, 9, 10x? That's a little bit of the hang up. He can, but it's typically going to require some variance to fall on your side. Either he's got to be hyper efficient, or one of his teammates go down, something like that. So, like, the way I'll put it is, like, he's not a player that I would want a super high ownership of myself. Like, I wouldn't want any more than, like, 15, 20% of him relative to the other plays in the slate. But he's somebody that I don't mind at all, just to be clear. Brian asked DSJ or Elf. Elf. I would say Elf. Daniel D, is AD your favorite stud? Yes. Now, I say this. Now, don't come at me and be all pissed when Anthony Davis goes to the locker room in the second quarter and is questionable to return. That's a risk that we are all going to have to be willing to take. However, he is theoretically the best actual play on the slate. When you consider pricing, McCollum is never 9K with Dame in, right? So you're overpaying for him. It's understandable why you're doing it, and I like him. Anthony Davis is priced for LeBron James to be in, and LeBron James is out. So pretty big swing there. I like Anthony Davis a ton. I'm going to play him a ton. If Anthony Davis gets hurt, I am going to be fucked. Just to put it clear. I know that, spoiler alert, that's the last game. We'll talk about it. But that's just the real. Just roll. People stingy with their likes. I know, right? I don't know why. Somebody once said to me that the reason that they're stingy with their likes is because if they like it, it'll start recommending, like, old videos in their feed and all that shit. But I mean, look, if we don't get the likes, we may not be able to continue to do this. You know what I'm saying? So we need the likes. The likes are very, very important. So don't be stingy with the likes. Hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel. Do all the above. And know that you're doing everything you can to help us out. Right. Not worried about blowout for Anthony Davis. Well, here's the thing about a blowout. If the game blows out, it's either everybody on the Lakers, everyone else was so efficient that AD wasn't needed, or they blow him out because Anthony Davis just went ham. Right? That's how I look at it. When it comes to blowouts, I know that the players that are expensive are a little bit more risky, but at the same time, it's like, this is a small slate. Raw points could matter. So say there's a blowout, Anthony Davis gets 28 minutes and he goes for 50. It's not what you wanted, but I still think that 50 is in the winning lineup tonight because I think raw points matter a little bit more on smaller slates. Our boy William Crudup says, a hungry dog will eat a frog. That is true. Now, this dog's hungry as hell. I caught him eating my shoes, my Air Force Ones. Nah. Yes, so hungry dog will eat a frog. I mean, he's teething and shit, but that is true. Oh, man, I'm going to find that pronunciation. Abrasuv, drop a like. You heard, I didn't say it. He said it. I'm just repeating what my man in the chat said, but he's right. The likes are creeping up. I appreciate it, guys. You are responding. I appreciate it. I really do. All right, let's go on to the next game, the last game, right? This is it right here, and then we're off to Breakville. Los Angeles Lakers and the Golden State Warriors. We know LeBron James is out. Both of these teams have had a day off. Simple. Rajon Rondo projects to be the top value play on the slate, assuming he starts. Again, the starting is very important. I need him to start. I'll have a lot of him. So him and Anthony Davis will probably be my two highest exposed players. They're chalky. My plan is to eat that chalk and kind of get different somewhere else and just hope they give me the raw score outputs I need. In Rondo's case, you're also looking for the point per dollar upside as well. But I'm good with Rondo and Davis as my primary. After that, it gets a little confusing. JaVale McGee's very cheap. We've seen him excel in the past when one of AD or LeBron missed. Dwight Howard, however, has shown the much bigger ceiling and has played more minutes on a 99-out basis typically. We've seen situations in the past where he was able to get full run in these types of circumstances, so I do like him as well. Kyle Kuzma is the one that shows the biggest usage, or one of the higher usage rates on the team with LeBron off the court. So I'm interested there. The issue, of course, is we haven't seen a ton of this, and they're a little deeper now. They got Markieff Morris also, who they recently signed. So it's kind of hard to project who's going to get what, right? Like even at point guard, is Rondo going to play a ton of minutes? Is Caruso going to play more minutes? Or is Quinn Cook going to be the one that gets more minutes? So they're just going to dust him off the bench. So there's a lot of uncertainty with the Lakers. The good thing about the Lakers night in, night out is when AD and LeBron play, you know it's AD or LeBron or probably not much else. When one of them's out, that's when things get crazy, wacky, and interesting. We do have a larger spread here. It's a 222 total, which is down 3.5 points. But I believe that's a reflection of LeBron James getting ruled out. The opening line probably came out before that, yesterday, before the news came out yesterday. The Lakers opened up -13. They're down to -10. I think that's also part of the LeBron news. I mean, the Warriors are bad. We know that. Lakers are a good team. I expect to see them to go far in the playoffs. They're missing LeBron. That's big. But there's pieces here, especially against Golden State. They're really bad against centers. I mean, they're just not good defensively right now in general, but they're really bad against centers. So AD in a smash spot, Dwight Howard, McGee, all in smash spots. Rondo's just too cheap, assuming he gets 20 minutes. Like we got him at 26. It's not even that much. But it's like Kuzma would be the other one I'm kind of like on the fringe. And how does Markieff Morris fit into all this? What position do they plan on playing him at? Where does he? Is he going to take away from Kuzma? Is he going to take away from the bigs? Where do we go with this? So a lot of question marks. I'll be curious to hear what Paulie and Bobby Firestone, our guest, has to say about this spot when we get there. But I plan on rostering, at the very least, I will have a lot of Rondo, a lot of Davis. And then I think after that, it's like McGee, Howard, and Kuzma as my next three. And then we'll kind of wait and see. Like the question is how much? The question is, do I have them projected fairly? Again, projecting minutes is tough, especially when it's a situation where things are kind of new and kind of different and you're not used to seeing. You don't really have a ton of samples with this type of situation. So, but yeah, to be clear, I know he's chalky, but I'll be eating that chalk tonight. And when he goes to the locker room in the second quarter and he's hurt, I'll be fucking angry. So if you hit me up on Twitter, I'll be understanding. I'll even probably like the tweet because I'll be frustrated. But just know I'm going to be pretty pissed. And I've been working on controlling that and not saying hurtful, mean things on Twitter because a player had a bad day. I mean, I've been trying not to do that because at the end of the day, they're human. Shit happens, you know. But that's the money talking, right? That's the money that I lost talking, not me. But I'm trying to work on that and improve on that and just be more of a peaceful person and be more positive because I want to influence positivity to y'all as well, right? We're better off. Nobody needs the negativity. Nobody needs the drama, the beef, none of that. We need positivity, right? Law of attraction. Put out positive vibes, you get them back. Truly believe that. It's not everything, but it helps. As far as the Warriors, these guys are extremely tough. I mean, tough to predict. Marquise Chris, assuming you're assuming that he's going to get minutes, but he's only been, even him, he's getting like 28, 29. They're just not really playing guys huge minutes because they're not really playing for anything. And that's pretty frustrating. Draymond Green is back, which makes things even more complicated. I don't mind Draymond at his prices. We know he's got the upside for it. The question is motivation. Are they going to play him his full minutes? He's getting like 28, 29 minutes. And obviously, Draymond usually plays big minutes when they're going for it and everybody's healthy. But he's missed some time. They've been very cautious with him, and they're not playing for anything. And so I don't know. Are they going to go for the win? I'm not sure. I mean, they are home against a top team. You would think they'd try. So I think Draymond's interesting. I'm okay with Wiggins, but similar story. I think Wiggins, the usages look good. Draymond's coming back. That could affect him a little bit. But even for Wiggins, 31 minutes against Sacramento, that was a close-ish game. It wasn't that out of hand until the end. He did get 34 against New Orleans, 29 against Houston. That was a straight blowout. 34 against... So it's possible. It's possible. I projected him up anyway because I want to make sure I get some because I do think that if Golden State does hang in this game, I think Wiggins has a big day. Jordan Poole is fine for value. He's in that Shake Milton range. He's played well and started at point guard with Draymond back. I think Draymond could get some opportunities to run the point, which, to be honest, I think that may affect Kai. It should affect Kai Bowman a little bit more. I think his minutes may go down earlier before he was actually hurt. Before Draymond started missing, the last time Draymond played, Kai Bowman barely played. Ever since they started Poole and Kai Bowman came off the bench with Draymond there, Bowman didn't play much. So I think he's going to hurt the most. But they could throw us a curveball and start Bowman today. So be ready for the starting lineups. On FanDuel, again, you're going to have to take those guesses, but so is everybody else, so it's kind of an even playing field. On DraftKings, however, with the late swap, make sure you have your computers with you, laptops with you, or at least your phone to make changes because you're going to want to react. But we'll have to take a wait-and-see approach with that one. After that, there's not a ton. So it's really Marquise Chris, Andrew Wiggins is my primary two. Jordan Poole shortly behind them. I do think I prefer Milton a little bit, but I'm starting to think maybe that we can get some ownership leverage on Poole. And then, I think that's it. So some Marquise Chris is fine for tournaments. Some Draymond. Wiggins probably as the primary. And then some Poole, right? I don't think there's too much else at that point I want. Let's pop into the chat real quick before we get out of here. I'm going to go in the Wisestream chat first. I haven't checked on these guys in a while. And when I don't check in, man, these guys don't behave. All right, nothing in that one. All good. They'll be ready for the second half of the show. And I know a lot of them are in the YouTube chat anyway. Let's see. Just roll. I like Wiggins right after that floor game he had against the Lakers, a team he likes to smash. I'm with you. And that's the reason that I projected him for 36 minutes. It was more to give him a boost, to make sure I get some exposure to him on a 4-game slate. And that was all I needed to do. I think I'm somewhere around 30% on Wiggins. But I agree with you. I don't mind it as a bounce back. That's why I give him a little bit of a minutes boost. He hasn't really played more than 34 on this team, but I gave him an extra 2 because I want to make sure we get some exposure to him. Good point from Daniel D. I think they will play hard because Steph comes back on Sunday. That is a good point. This is the last chance for these guys to run around and do their thing before Steph at least has one game back. We'll see what he does after that. EP2, yo, CK, do thy dirty to thy neighbor, bro. That's right. That's more of the... That's more of that. I like that. Miami Mike 305. Thoughts on Corey Joseph if Fox sits? I think it's fine. He's definitely fine, right? We're assuming he's going to see a minutes increase, a usage increase. I still prefer Bogdanovich on that team as the one who gets the bigger boost, and Buddy Hield as well, because obviously those players have bigger ceilings. But I'm totally fine with Corey Joseph, and he becomes a pivot off of Rajon Rondo, who's expected to be very popular. So I'm fine with that. Again, hopefully we get that news while we're still on the show. So if he does get ruled out, we can get everybody's thoughts and kind of come up with a game plan to approach it. But definitely I like the way you're thinking. I think if Fox gets ruled out. Now, again, here's what I'll say again. If Fox gets ruled out and Corey Joseph starts, I'm good. If Fox gets ruled out and Corey Joseph does not start, I don't think I want to play that game. You see my point? At that point, I don't want to play that game. With that said, appreciate those of you hanging out with us for part 1 of the NBA Wise stream. We got about 10 minutes to 6, so we have a guest coming on. It's going to take me a little extra time to set up. So I'm going to actually go ahead and sign off here. No, I'm not going to sign off. You stay put. I'm going to play some background music, put the still screen on. You guys hang out with me. We're going to come right back with Bobby Firestone and Paulie D to talk some game theory and, get ready to take this slate down. We'll ask Bobby some interview questions as well. It should be a lot of fun. Come hang out with us. Don't go nowhere. It's going to be right on this stream. If you didn't hit the like button, please do. And again, don't go nowhere. We'll be back in about 10 minutes or so, realistically. We need time to set up. So give me about 10 minutes. We'll be back with part 2 of the Wise stream. Talk some game theory, answer more questions, learn a little bit about Bobby Fi, and find out what Paulie and Bobby like on the slate tonight. All right. Oh, one last question I got here from my boy EP2. Outside of AD, who's the top scorer of the night? Ooh, that's a good question. Whew. Raw points. I want to say McCollum or Whiteside, but something tells me that Sabonis can do it dirty. But I guess for now, I'll go with McCollum. I'll go with McCollum, I guess. Well, let's see what I was actually getting, because I actually did run some teams already. Let me see. So Anthony Davis, I had the most of, obviously. McCollum was the next highest stud. I have McCollum at 46, White's at 46% right now. Whiteside at 45%. So it's tight like that, but I would slightly lean towards McCollum, I guess. It's a chalky answer, I know. It's not cute. But yo, I do what I do. I am what I am. No gimmicks, none of that shit. Right? That's just how I am. So with that said, again, don't go nowhere. We'll be right back with part 2 of the show. Give me about 10 minutes or so. All right? See you in a little bit.
What we do here is go back.
What up, nation? Welcome back to part 2 of the NBA Wise stream. We are joined once again by the GOAT, the true OG of the WiseTake Nation, Mr. Paulie D. You can find him on Twitter at Paulie with 8 Ds, but you probably knew that. Paulie, what's happening? And we have a very special guest. Told y'all we had a special guest. Told y'all we're bringing on some guests. Told y'all we had a good one coming. I gave you some hints earlier on the show of who it was, and then eventually I'm terrible at secrets, so I just told you it was Bobby Fi. Here he is. Bobby Fi, longtime friend of the WiseTake Nation. It's been a while since we had him on. Figure it's been a little too long. Decided to bring him on. You can find him on Twitter at Bobby Fi, as you see on the screen. Bobby, appreciate you hopping on the show, bro. Welcome.
Hey, man, appreciate it. Happy to be back with you guys. Feels like it's been too long. I think we got to make this happen a little more often.
I agree.
Yeah, it's just been a while. Hey, man, we've been on fire over here. So I'm ready to, I'm ready to get to it every time. This is not the most fun slate, but anytime I can be on with you guys, it's a good time.
Hey, man, we appreciate it, man. Always a pleasure having you on. Those of you who don't know, Bobby, do me a favor. Some of these people may not know where they can find you. If you don't know now, you know. We're going to tell you now. But Bobby, aside from Twitter at Bobby Fi, tell the nation where they can find some of your content. I know you're doing a lot of stuff lately.
Yeah, I partnered up with RotoQL, BetQL. They're owned with the same company. People who actually started DraftKings a long time ago. Some of the investors. They've got a massive subscription base that sort of didn't really keep going for a while, so they're trying to get it started back up again. It was Max Delury. It was his site when he started it. It was actually the first projection site I used. So I partnered with them. So now I'm on QLTV every day, which is it's our YouTube channel, just QLTV. And then my own YouTube channel I'm on every day as well, Bobby Firestone, which I just started up. So not a huge following yet on the stuff, but it's growing every day and by about 10%. So like it's hopefully by the end of the basketball season we'll have a big following. But in the meantime, it's free content every day over there. But I appreciate just getting the opportunity to come and talk with you guys over here because I'm all about giving the people the good free advice.
That's it, man. That's what we're all about, providing that quality content, man. Everybody seems to think you get everything from one. What happens when you go to one place for all the content is you end up getting the same shit as everybody else. Sometimes it's nice to get things a little bit different, shake things up a little bit, right?
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better.
Paulie, I'm going to ask you first, bro. Overall, Bobby, we're going to ask you some questions, just like interview style type shit. There's a couple questions I have lined up. But before we get into that, Paulie, I'm curious to hear you. I've been waiting to talk to you. I talk to you. I get a chance to talk to you today, Paulie. What are your overall thoughts on today's sleazy, man?
For 4-gamer, it's actually not that bad. There's, value kind of everywhere. Some of the fun value names from back in the day, like Kyle O'Quinn and Rajon Rondo, and a couple big usage pieces missing in LeBron James and Joel Embiid, just giving us kind of unique situations, for those teams. For a 4-game slate, I actually kind of like it. There's some spots I think will be kind of contrarian. I think on a 4-game slate, that's usually your best path. The easiest path to victory is, being right on the contrarian, fading some of the chalk. There's a lot to talk about, honestly, for 4 games. I'm into the slate a lot.
Bobby?
Yeah, man. I wish I liked it a little bit better, but I do like playing on these small slates because I'm very contrarian by nature. So you're sort of forced to do some things. One of the things that stood out to me is just like everybody, we're just going to lock in guys who we really don't know what the role is going to be. I mean, I'm living in LA, and everything you hear all day on sports chalk, much less everything else, is like, why doesn't Caruso just get all Rondo's minutes at this moment anyway? If you look at the numbers with the Lakers, with Caruso on versus Rondo on. Having said that, I'm still probably going to mostly have Rondo tonight, but like it's an interesting automatic pivot if you want to try and get sick and win a tournament that's a 4-game slate where you want to go chalky elsewhere. Make a play like that, or play a KCP or something instead, or Avery Bradley. It's not exciting, doesn't feel great, but I don't feel like Rondo's minutes are secure. The only problem is if you do fade him and he just has like a normal game for him here, he's going to put up like 45 and you're going to need him.
Yeah, and, to that point, like everyone just assumed Podol was going to start last night. Not only did he not start, but he barely played. And like we do have a bunch of those situations today where, like, it's a good point. Like everyone, just because the optimizers are pumping up Rondo, like we don't even know if he's going to start yet.
Exactly. And there's something for that, like just from a slate perspective on DraftKings, especially like with the late swap, it sort of makes me want to like go out of your way to stack the late game. Just like you don't know what's going to pivot. Like, you don't know who you might hear in the starting lineup. You have no idea what's going to happen, and you can really adjust to a bunch of other guys that are in the similar price range no matter what. Not to mention, like, if you're struggling, you can make that flip from Rondo to Caruso, or it's just hope for some miracle like that. So I think it gives you like some leverage, some edge on this 4-gamer, because that game starting late, really, we might not have the starting lineup till 8 Eastern.
I completely agree. Before I get into the questions, just because we're on the topic, I don't want to lose the thought. De'Aaron Fox is obviously questionable. One of the bigger question marks we have on the slate today. Talk to me your comparisons. Rajon Rondo, Corey Joseph. Say Fox is out. Does Joseph become a stronger pivot option for you? Or are you looking at it more like, nah, I'd rather stick with the Bogdanovich. I'd rather stick with maybe the Buddy Hields. Where does he come into play? Paulie, you first.
I certainly prefer the Lakers starting guard, whichever that may be, over
Corey Joseph. And again, that's also an assumption that even if, again, we're talking a lot of hypotheticals. If hypothetically Fox is out and then hypothetically Kojo starts, right? Like, again, we're still playing the game. But anyway.
Yeah. I mean, Joseph has started a little bit recently, so like that's probably more likely, of the scenarios. But, he started before and not done much. Like, to me, it's Bogdanovich, Buddy Hield, and the rest. And, like, he's just like a nice piece. But I wouldn't take much to talk me off of pivoting off of Corey Joseph.
Bobby, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah. I'm with you on that completely. I couldn't agree more. I think the only thing I would say is that if you don't get the feeling the ownership's going to, we're not going to find out or whatever, so you're going to get lower ownership on Corey Joseph. I don't mind that, because I actually think his minutes, if he's starting and we don't know about Rondo starting yet, his minutes are definitely more secure. So if he's going to be, let's say we think he's going to be 10% versus Rondo 70%, that would make him I would definitely play him. But if we think it's going to be close to anywhere, even if Rondo's just double him, I'm still going with Rondo or Caruso or whoever may be starting for the Lakers.
I'm with it. Thinks it made a lot of sense. We got a lot of time to kill on this show. Obviously, we take you all the way up until Lock Nation. We're looking at about 50 minutes, and there's not a ton of news. We got a 4-game slate going on. So I'm going to change the pace a little bit here, and we're going to learn a little bit about Bobby Fi. Bobby, first question I have for you, man. How long in total have you been playing DFS?
I guess basically it's been like 6 years, I want to say. Probably about 6 years. Maybe it's been longer. I gotta check that one out. See, when poker ended, so that was, I guess it was right after poker, we shut down poker online. So it was, I guess, 2013. So almost 7 years now.
There's always been a strong correlation between poker players and DFS. You see them all the time. Some of the top guys in the poker world back in the day, before the big shutdown happened, have become some of the top DFS players in the game. What is it to you, aside from like the gambling, the probabilities, or maybe that's all it is? What is it to you that makes that correlation for those out there who maybe didn't come from the poker world and noticed the same trend, or just wondering what the connection is?
The same type of analytics, basically. You're sort of breaking things down in a very similar manner. It's a way of competing in a game. It's a competition, and some of us aren't athletes anymore, or never were. Some of us never were. We don't get our chance. This is our way of competing, and it does take the same sort of analytical mind, I think, that makes a good poker player, that would make someone a really good DFS player. There's a lot of similarities, even down to like how you use your bankroll and what to play in, and especially from a tournament player's perspective. Like me, I was a tournament poker player. I'm a tournament. I still doesn't mean I don't play cash games in both, but like I'm mostly a tournament guy, and I found that it sort of lent itself to me. The reason I got into it was actually the founder of a site called Card Runners back in the day, a really big poker instructional site. I was out to dinner with him at a poker tournament in London, and they were starting this site called Draft Day, which I don't know if you guys played on Draft Day much, but he's like, your mind would be perfect for this. You should try it out. And I got really lucky and won like a $3 tournament for $10,000. Like they give you like a free $5 when you join up. And fortunately, have never had a losing year. I came close twice, but fortunately, I haven't had a losing year since. So that's pretty much it for me.
Loving it. Let me ask you a question. If poker wasn't a thing, if DFS wasn't a thing, what would Bobby Fi be doing with his time?
I worked for a bunch of startups when I was younger, and actually had some decent success. Actually, I was making a lot of money when I quit my job to play poker for a living in the first place, and I was for a startup basically that did ground support equipment, used ground support equipment. Another one that did use telecom equipment. I did sales, but I mostly would run the supply parts of, I always like dealing with numbers. I always liked being, sort of trying to find a creative solution to difficult problems. So I always like, that's something along those lines. I think if I could go back and go to school when I was younger, I would probably maybe say something maybe more in the legal arena, because I think that I would have enjoyed being a lawyer a lot. But I don't know. Actually, it's a good question.
Yeah, you like that one, huh? Are you a debater? Are you a master baiter or a master debater? Is that what they say?
I don't know if I'm a master, but I definitely debate a lot. So.
Loving it.
Fox is out, by the way.
Yeah, Fox just got ruled out, right? Yep, Fox just got ruled out. So the hypothetical is no longer hypothetical. Now that one hypothetical down, one more to go. We got into starting lineup. We got time. We'll definitely hit up on the Aaron Fox stuff, but I'm having fun asking Bobby Fi these questions. I feel like I'm interrogating someone, and it's fun. Maybe I would say that I would have went back and been a cop, but that's complete bullshit. There's no chance in hell. I wouldn't have been allowed anyway. But but the interrogation part to me always seemed kind of fun. So as far as DFS goes, what types of contests? I know you're a tournament player, but do you really like? Are you more of like, I like to get into the high dollar single entry type stuff, or are you more like, nah, mass multi entry? I want as many teams, as many combinations as possible.
It always depends on the slate for me. Tonight I'm not playing as much, also because I'm doing this show, and it would be hard if I was doing this show at this time every day to really mass multi enter in basketball.
Oh, tell us about it.
It's just there's way too much. Yeah, no, he's trying to explain that to you. It's really ridiculous, but yeah, obviously you guys know. So I like doing both, but and I've had success with all of them. I mostly just you really do change your approach from 200 person GPPs to 60,000 person GPPs, regardless of which ones you win more often or whatever. You have to have a slightly different approach. So people are always wondering how they say, how do you win this tournament? You only have one guy who's under 10% owned, or other times they're like, how do you win a tournament and you don't have anybody who's 10% owned? Well, you get a little more creative in those 60,000 person fields than you do in those smaller fields. So I enjoy them both, but I definitely understand there's a big difference between the two of them. On a given night, I usually play three to five big entries, and then I'll go between somewhere 20 and 150 and all the other stuff.
I think it makes a lot of sense. Paulie, I'm gonna give you a chance if you have anything you wanted to ask. Other than that, we got the golden question as the last question. It's actually your question, but I'm gonna phrase it as if it was my question because I like the question.
Okay.
Bobby, if there was one piece, if somebody said you could tell everybody out there one piece of advice for DFS, just one, the most important piece of advice to you, tell me what that would be.
I would tell them to watch all of our content, right?
I mean, yeah, that's the easy way now. Yeah.
I think that it's so boring, my answer to this. I really hate the answer that I'm going to give. I would say bankroll management is honestly the most important thing. And I just want to say, I'll never mention any names, but there's a lot of people out there who I have a lot of respect for, who have made a lot of money at this, that between the bankroll management in their life and their playing is when it's been off. And by the way, I've been guilty of this too. I've gone through streaks where not even necessarily losing, it's just the way you live your life as if you're continuing to make the money that you made maybe the previous few months. You got to really, really be responsible with your life, and you can't treat the 6-figure nights as if they're going to happen every day, because it's just not the way it is. You got to manage your bankroll, be careful, pay attention to what contests you're entering, and really try to gain as whatever little edges are out there, and staying informed. I don't know, man. It's hard to say just one thing. What are some other people answer on that question?
Honestly, you're the first person we asked. That was guinea pig bro right there, bro. This is guinea pig. I'm gonna see, because we plan on bringing more people, and that's a question we want to drop. One thing about me, Bobby, is I don't know what it is about it, but I love to throw people in the fire with certain things because I like to see how they react. Especially in NBA, right? The NBA DFS is all about reaction. Everything you can study the slate all day, and it can be nothing by 6:30, right? It's just everything is about reaction. So I like to ask those questions, and that's why I liked it when Paulie mentioned it. I was like, I like that one because I just like to see how people react. I thought you handled it really well, but obviously that's what we expected from you, for sure. All right, so we'll get into a little bit of the slate stuff. If anybody in the YouTube chat has any questions, we will fire away. I did see, is that Big T in there that popped in the YouTube chat? Big T, we're coming to get you on. We want you on here too. We're coming to get you on a show, bro. Be ready. I know you don't know me like that. I don't know you like that. I'm gonna reach out. What's that?
I would love to duke it out another time with that guy. I miss him. We still chat and everything, but I don't get to do the shows with him anymore, and it's always fun because we're either completely on the same page or completely on the opposite page of everything. So we usually know. It usually tells us how the night's gonna go.
Always a good time. I always respect the people that have their words like that catch on, like the giblets he always says, right? I love it. Over here we talk about doing the dirties and dropping sevens and all that stuff. So I love it. I'm all for it. I think it could be a lot of fun. But be ready. Check your DMs. I'm gonna slide into his DMs at some point. And if I can't do it, I'm gonna have Bobby do it. So like I said, we want more guests. We want these things to be lively, have a lot of fun. I'm getting a lot of feedback of people that are enjoying the show, appreciate the free content that all of us are doing. So shout out to the nation. Shout out to all you guys watching. Shout out to those of you who subscribe to Bobby's channel and all that stuff. Let's get into some slate talk. We're not going to jump right into De'Aaron Fox. We're going to wait and maybe see if we get a lineup. In the meantime, I'm going to ask some very basic general questions as we normally do. Paulie, I'm going to start with you, and I'm going to ask you, as of right now, what are your favorite studs on the slate? Obviously, you're going to have to address Anthony Davis right out the gate, but talk to me about your favorite studs on the slate. Paulie? Oh, you were loading it up. Oh,
yeah,
I thought you was muted or something. I was like, oh shit.
What did you just say about Anthony?
What about Anthony Davis? I said you're gonna have to address him.
We did have a little like distortion.
Hey, bro.
Oh yeah. All right.
What you want? Delay?
I thought you dropped some news about him.
Got some delay action going.
What's going down right now?
Yeah, it's a little.
Yeah, shit's wild.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Bobby. I'm gonna have you answer it first, and then Paulie, maybe an internet thing. Oh, there you go. Just like that. That fixes that. All right, Bobby. So I'm going to ask you, who are your favorite? Talk to me about your favorite studs on the slate.
So I like, I would, I mean, it's hard to not want to play Anthony Davis because we have so much value. It's kind of hard not to pay up for these guys. I'm trying to figure out a way to fade McCollum more. And it's weird because I'm a McCollum guy, like in general. I just feel like that's like the one game that like I'm trying to think something to get off that's chalky. I thought that game could get really, really ugly. And I think that the matchup's bad enough and that Indiana's smart enough as a team defensively to try and phase him out. So that's not a guy who I like, I'm saying, but I just want to throw him out. Like I'm trying to basically fade him and the Horford and Harris and just the over-the-top chalk other than Davis. I'm not as interested in. I'm mostly trying to get off of it. So honestly, I don't love the pay-ups on this slate. I would go I guess I would go Sabonis and McCollum would make the most sense of the two other guys to spend up for. But mostly I'm trying to get a little bit off the board. And I'm obsessed with the guy who I have the most ownership in right now is other than Davis is Josh Richardson. And I really think Kyle Kuzma is an awesome like speculative play, as well as Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. So those are the guys I have in the most lineups.
Yeah, no, perfect. Makes sense. Paul, are you back with us?
I'm back.
Yeah, he's back. Your camera's not on, but I mean, as long as the delay's gone, I'm straight with it. But anyway, talk to me about your favorite studs on the slate, Paulie.
Yeah, I mean, there's not many to choose from, but Sabonis is my favorite. Then McCollum. Obviously AD is a fine play. A little worried about that game staying close, but it could, without LeBron. Also like Julius Randle. I don't know if you consider him a stud, but with no Embiid and like...
Real quick, Paulie, we just got some news in. Taj Gibson is questionable, and they've already announced that Bobby Portis is going to start over Taj Gibson. So just wanted to make sure that you're informed. Does that affect Julius Randle at all for you?
Yeah, so something happened last night where they didn't close with Randle. I don't know, Randle left without like talking to the media. They closed with Bobby Portis, Mitch Robinson. They still lost. That group was playing well, along with Alonzo Trier, who I want to talk about in a little bit. But I think like Julius Randle was pissed, and he actually had a decent game leading up to that. So I think this like bounce back spot. Philly with no size. I think the Knicks compete against them tonight. I think the game stays close. And, when Elf's there, Randle's, they correlate real well. Like, Randle just gets more usage. There's no more Marcus Morris. Like, I think he could have one of those ceiling games. And his price is down to like 78. So I'm really into Julius Randle.
Holla. I'm with you, Bobby. I know we talked about a lot of the plays you were the highest on, but I'm going to ask you to break down the mid tier for me a little bit. Obviously, the way with Rajon Rondo, Anthony Davis, CJ McCollum, stars and scrubs seems to be calling. Like I think that's going to be the chalk build, so to speak. What are some of the mid-tier plays if you wanted to go a little more balanced? You mentioned Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who I expect to be extremely low owned, and a couple other players. But really talk to me about this mid-tier. Who are some of the guys that you could really see running away with it? And not to mention we have now the Buddy Hields, the Bogdanoviches, and all that stuff.
Yeah, so it's interesting because I actually think that news makes me like Randall too. We didn't have that at the very beginning of when we first started going because I already had Bobby Portis to play. I sort of predicted this was going to happen earlier. I called it on a show that they're going to sit Todd Gibson. I mean, they didn't say they're sitting him, but the questionable I'm going to take as he's out. I'm just going to treat it that way. So I'm going to give everybody, all of those guys a boost. I think Mitch Robinson is definitely in play here. So in terms of like overall mid-tier, I'm just looking at my ownership. Sorry, I don't want to get it wrong. I hate when I say something that's off on this.
We're just chilling, man. Do your thing. We're just chilling.
Yeah. Shai, one guy who, look, we have to see what happens with it. We still have Draymond Green is in, right? I didn't miss that in the last 15 minutes.
Correct. He's available to play.
Assuming that Draymond's in, which I have him as in, I think that's one of the guys you can run back against all these Lakers in the late game and give yourself a little bit of an edge because of potential. Now we don't have the Fox late breaking news, but we don't know who the Lakers are going to start. And I would like to get exposure to that game anyway. I think that's one of the games that stays closer than the 10-point spread potentially, or at least is more competitive than people think. So I want to get Draymond. I hate playing Andrew Wiggins, but I would definitely consider doing it tonight just because, like I said, I'm trying to get exposure to that game now. I'm not as big on the Whiteside part of this game as some people are going to be, and I don't know. I just am avoiding it. Another chalky play that I'm just sort of trying to stay away from. I'm not as high on Miles Turner, who everyone else seems to be on for some reason out of the blue. I liked him as an interesting tournament play, but now I don't.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's where I'm at. And again, back to Julius Randle. I think he's really the guy who jumps up for me now. And I think the thing that happened yesterday, I don't know exactly what happened, but he hasn't closed. I mean, the last two, Mitch Robinson has played the last 20 minutes in both of the last two fourth quarters. He's closed the game, or the fourth quarter and third quarter. From when he came in the second half, he stayed through the whole time, both of the last two games. Now, without Taj Gibson, all of these guys have got to get a boost and definitely become much more interesting if we assume Taj Gibson's out.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. Paulie, what about you, man? Who are some of the mid-tier guys that stand out to your ass?
So, for a 4-game slate, it's risky, but as I mentioned, I kind of like the way Elf correlates with Randall. Like, nobody's going to play him. And, the first game when Mitch Rob closed, I think the Knicks got smoked. This game was a little closer yesterday. Elf's first game back, I don't know with the back-to-back, but it's a 4-game slate. He's a guy to take a risk on, especially if you're running back some Philly. That's just going to be, virtually unowned. Other mid-tier, TJ Warren's one of my favorite on the entire slate. If you look, his usage and shot attempts have been through the roof. Don't love that Oladipo's playing. That was a little prior to him being there, but still, there's not a ton of options. He's 6K. That's my second favorite game on the board. We've always kind of liked those wings, power forward type players against Portland. So TJ Warren, I'm into. And then Harry Giles for Sacramento, 5'4", the price is going up. I don't think people are going to want to play that. They're probably going to look at Bobby Portis now and your JaVale McGee's and, other value plays like that. And then, I don't know how much we're going to see out of Marquise Chris, but man, he's been good. But with Draymond in, Draymond's not really a power forward anymore. He's like a point guard for that team. But we haven't really seen this group play together very much. This is all kind of new. But he's a guy I'll have a little bit of exposure to, Chris, with just the big upside with the usage that he's had. This is the first game with Draymond, though. So what are your thoughts on that, Marquise Chris?
I'm off of the Chris thing myself, but I don't have a great explanation as to why. I think he actually is kind of an interesting pivot. I just don't find. I don't know. I don't think this is a great spot. I hate the matchup for him personally, and I do think with Draymond back, it's going to take away a little bit of the usage he's been seeing. I just don't feel comfortable with him tonight.
You prefer Harry Giles over Chris?
Yeah, but I think that's a high risk, high upside play. I do think it's higher risk than people think. I think that there is. So the really weird play, which you don't need to do because you don't need to save this money, would be to play Alex Len I think there's an outside chance he starts getting minutes, especially against Steven Adams, who's a little bigger bodied and would be a little bit more. I mean, it's not like you're going to post him up, but it just seems to make sense more strength wise. I also think that I don't think that they're going to do nothing with him the rest of the time in Sacramento. So I wouldn't be surprised if his minutes crept into the 20s and he became kind of interesting. But like, I don't know. I'm a little bit off these other guys. I don't feel excited about Giles or Marquise Chris personally.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought up Adams. He actually really popped in the research. Price was up a little, 6.8, but if the game's close, which without Fox, I'm a little less inclined to think it will. If he gets full run, what he's been doing lately has been awesome, and Sacramento's not going to offer much resistance. They're one of allowing the most, third most of the points in the paint over the last few weeks. So he's kind of interesting too. Probably not going to be very owned as well.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I actually like Adams quite a bit through the lack of other. I mean, it's a night where if he gets you 35, you're happy with it. You know what I mean? Center especially is a weird spot tonight, especially over on FanDuel. Do you really like the 35 on FanDuel?
Oh yeah. No doubt about that. I mean, he's been balling. He's been getting like 28, 29 minutes and just going for 40s like it's his job. I guess it is his job. I have a tendency to say that, and I guess it is his job technically, but I'm with you on that. Paulie, let's start off with some value. We talked about Rajon Rondo. We talked about the hypotheticals with Corey Joseph, and we'll go deeper into the King situation in a little bit. But in the meantime, talk to me about some of the other top value guys you're looking at, whether they're chalky, low owned, whatever. Who are some of the value you're honing in on?
So Shake Milton, I've been really impressed with at a Philly. There's a lot of usage to go around now with no Embiid and Simmons. He's 4.7. He's taking 5+ 3-pointers a game, getting bigger minutes than any of the other kind of fringe players there. Rondo, I'm fine with. JaVale McGee is really interesting. He's min price. This is a team that's terrible against bigs. His former team, I think, JaVale's had 2 big games this year, and one of them was against Golden State already. There's more reason for him to play more minutes today. He doesn't even need many minutes to do well. Golden State's been a top 5 most blocked team in the last month or so. That's where JaVale has his upside. And if the game blows out, maybe they let him close out the game, get a whole bunch of extra minutes. He's kind of interesting to me as well. Really like Kyle Kuzma for value. I think I'd be willing to take some shots on Aaron Holiday as well. But the one I'm really wanting to talk about, maybe it's just a Knicks thing in me, but I was really impressed with Lonzo Trier in the fourth quarter. Do you think he gets minutes? The usage will be phenomenal when he's on the court. And, we're already pivoting Bobby Portis into the first unit. I think he's earned it. I think he's going to get 20 minutes today. And he's a guy that, you'll get crazy low and could win you a tournament like he did, 6 times last season. I think today could be the day. What do you think? Anyone want to take a shot on Trier?
Not me.
I'm not going to do it. Definitely get it. It's actually it's the kind of slate where you should do it because it's speculative slates like this. I think it makes some sense. I just don't think I'm going to end up getting there because the other value is going to. I think some of it's going to hit just a little too hard.
Yeah.
I think it makes plenty of sense. I'm not fucking around with no Knicks though. You know what I'm saying? I mean, these guys they just benched their best player yesterday, 25 minutes in a nut spot, and as far as I saw, he was playing fucking well. I got no idea why. I'm not fucking with these guys, man. I'm not. But in all seriousness, though, I do respect it. From a GPP mentality, it's like Bobby said earlier, high risk, high reward. If that pays off, I mean, say Rondo, who's going to be 60, 70, 80%, whatever, say he goes for even 24, and Trier happens to have one of those games where, say this game gets ugly, which is obviously possible, it's the Knicks, and Trier just gets all the garbage time in the world on top of his regular rotational minutes and just drops a dirty 40 on you or something. So it makes sense. It's just the probability is just.
He did a lot last year.
He did.
Yeah.
He did.
Also, Alex Caruso, I forgot to mention. Even if Rondo is the starter, I think Caruso gets a ton of minutes. They're likely to blow them out anyway, and him to get additional blowout run. And he's kind of like a fan favorite in LA. They love that guy.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Everybody just wants him to have Rondo's minutes, so I can't. I can see a path where it just. And that's what happens tonight. It's definitely on the table.
Mm-hmm.
Bobby, with that said, I know you had talked about him also earlier, Alex Caruso. Talk to me about the other value players, Lakers, all these guys. We know you like Caruso. We talked about Rondo, but like Paulie alluded to, man, we got McGee, we got Kuzma, who I know you mentioned. We've got Dwight Howard, who we've seen get big runs in these situations in the past, and even we've seen him get garbage time run in the past. Talk to me about some of the other value plays that you were honing in on.
Yeah, I think McGee or playing Noel is a really interesting way to go as well. But again, it's just like it comes close to flipping a coin. I think that I would maybe just go with the speculation that maybe Alex Len gets minutes, and head that direction instead of these guys, because I do like JaVale here, and he has had good games at Golden State in the past, like when since he's been in the Laker. I don't know. I personally I'd be okay with it, but I would rather go really speculate with Alex Len and just get absolutely zero ownership versus even 8 or 10% or whatever it'll be on McGee, which will probably be around there. I don't feel as happy. I don't feel as excited about Shake Milton coming off 37 minutes. I think again, it's a speculative slate. I don't mind in large field GPPs taking a shot on Korkmaz or Alec Burks. I think that those guys could see a little bit more run tonight, and even Glenn Robinson III. I feel less good about him and Avery Bradley, but they're low usage, but they're going to be out there plenty tonight. And then one other guy I forgot to mention just before was Dennis Schroeder, who I think is in a really good spot tonight, pretty much no matter how that game flows. I really like him a lot.
You're muted.
Always do that shit. Anyway. Yeah, I agree with the Schroeder take. I wouldn't obviously playing it off probabilities. It's hard for me to justify that we have a boost, right, for like a Josh Richardson who's similarly priced. There's a reason we like Richardson, right? We got Embiid out, Simmons out, so we expect him to have more usage. With that said, a lot of times guys that are similarly priced at similar positions often go overlooked. So now you're looking at ownership, right? J. Rich is going to have what, like 3-4 times the ownership as a guy like Schroeder. So definitely think that's an interesting call. Let's dive into this King situation. We know Buddy Hield. We know De'Aaron Fox has been ruled out. You know how many people were getting ready to remove Buddy Hield just now when I said that? I mean, people are ready. But De'Aaron Fox has got ruled out. So obviously we have some interesting things to consider with the Kings. Keep in mind, both of these teams, OKC and Sacramento, both play tomorrow. So if this game were to get a little ugly, it wouldn't surprise me if they both kind of threw in the towel and quit a little early. With that said, Paulie, I'm gonna start with you, man. Talk to me about the Kings. Or is this like a trap situation like we had with Charlotte the other day, where they got their ass kicked, everybody played Malik Monk, and they all sucked ass? Or do you think that guys like Buddy Hield, Bogdanovich, all these dudes are really worth raising exposure to?
Definitely on Bogdanovich. He's finally starting to get his shot going and should have tremendous usage, say, as we've seen in the past when Fox is out. Buddy Hield, I don't know if they move him back in the starting lineup, but he's been awesome on the second unit for the most part. And even if they get blown out, I think he'll get his usual kind of minutes, and might be against some weaker second unit guys. So I like both of them, but definitely Bogdanovich at his price. Harrison Barnes has been playing really well. I never liked to play him. He's all right. I think the Alex Len thing is kind of interesting. Like you said, it's going to be like 1-2% at most, and that's always kind of enticing. But Bogdanovich is the best play in my opinion.
Another point with the Alex Len thing, just trying to think. I mean, Harry Giles, I like Harry Giles. I was always pissed when they wouldn't give the guy minutes. But imagine Harry Giles, just trying to picture him with Steven Adams. You know what I'm saying? Just trying to picture. I'm having a hard time seeing it. Not that Alex Len is exactly like Mr. Rim Protector or anything, but Alex Len is genuinely a big guy, right? Like Giles he can get away with playing the four. So it is interesting mentioning Alex Len. They may not have a choice. If Harry Giles gets into foul trouble, they may not have a choice but to play Alex Len. Bobby, talk to me about the Kings. I know you had mentioned Alex Len as a potential option, but talk to me about the other guys with Fox's absence who you think will benefit the most.
Yeah, I still think Corey. I think you could play Joseph and if you want to, you could play Joseph and Rondo together. It makes plenty of sense to me. But I also think, the real weird out there play from this game would be, if you wanted to get real off the board, would be to play Yogi Ferrell. I know that's weird. Like he hasn't even played normally, but in these situations, maybe he ends up somehow like they struggle with the first unit, or the game's a blowout and Ferrell gets all the run because you want everybody else fresh for tomorrow on the back-to-back. It's just you have to try and get different on these smaller slates. So I kind of like trying something like that. But I think that it's, Hield, Bogdanovich, they're all going to be spread throughout my lineups plenty, along with Corey Joseph. That's just the way it is. And it's sort of forcing me into like even though I like fading a lot of the other chalk, I'm really having a hard time fading Anthony Davis now. I don't think it makes any sense to anymore.
There's just too much money to, it's too easy to play.
Yeah, exactly.
Similarly, I was doing a game-by-game breakdown earlier, and I was like, somebody had asked about Anthony Davis. And, like, listen, I'm going to play a lot of Anthony Davis. I was going to anyway, and I fully expect to get a notification in the second quarter of Anthony Davis going to the locker room. I'm prepared. I'm ready. I'm not going to sweat nothing today. I'm just going to put my phone to the side. It's my wife's birthday. She turned 30 today. So I'm prepared. I'm totally prepared. But with that said, if it doesn't happen, and say the game just happens to blow out, there's a pretty good chance Anthony Davis ends with a 50, and there's also a pretty good chance that because of all the value we have, he still ends up in the winning lineup, even though that's not the ideal score. Of course, you want him to go 6x, 7x, whatever you can. But there's a good chance that, on these smaller slates, obviously raw points matter a little bit more, and I agree. I think there's a good, at this point, with all the value we have, unless he does get the locker room deal, reverse jinx, I'm sending you out there because I will have a lot of Anthony Davis. But I think that makes a lot of sense. Looks like we did just get news that Kojo is going to be starting at point guard. Super exciting. Let me see if they release the full lineup because I am curious to see if they're going to do a Buddy Hield. All they released is that Corey Joseph is going to start for the injured De'Aaron Fox.
Buddy on the bench, man.
What's that?
What do you think? You have a team that plays a 3-guard lineup like that. That's the stackable game now. That's the game you really want the most exposure to, other than maybe I mentioned the Laker game. I think that game is now the best game to stack.
It definitely, I think, like you mentioned, the 3-guard team situation. That's one of the reasons I did like Dennis Schroeder, and I'm sure that's the reason that you have him on your radar as well. I agree. I think this definitely helps the chances of a situation like that happening. Speaking of game stacks, Bobby just kind of alluded that this is now one of the games that's emerged to him as a potential game stack. Paulie, what about you, man? And we only have 4 games to work with, right? But what's your favorite overall game stack? If you're taking players from both sides and just going at it, what's the game?
Yeah, Portland, Indiana is actually my favorite. I expect it to be close, when like the better East teams play the good West teams, like we usually find a good game, you know what I mean? Like not the elite West teams, but like the middle of the pack ones, like Portland kind of is, especially without Dame. I think we get a close game down to the wire. I think they kind of can take advantage of the other team's weaknesses kind of well. Like Domantas Sabonis should be able to do whatever he wants. Centers have been killing Whiteside all year, and then they don't really have any other bigs beyond that. And then CJ McCollum, although Brogdon's a good defender, they've been pretty weak against the point guard. Maybe some of that's because Brogdon was out. Maybe it's because Aaron Holiday is on the court more, although with Oladipo back, he probably won't be on the court as much anymore. Then I think the Knicks 76ers game is kind of interesting to stack. Like everybody's just underpriced that's going to be on the court and for the usage they're going to see. And I think that game's going to be close for some reason.
I feel you. I mean, I was talking about it earlier. It's got the lowest total on the board, so I feel like a lot of people are going to run. I'm terrified to play the Knicks. I'm just anybody. What we used to say about Brooklyn last year, man. Snipers in the rafters. You never know, like who's going to get pulled. Like they just decided we're just going to go see what this guy has. But I do think it makes sense in that you can't predict overtime, right? There's always that off chance. Bobby, what you guys?
But also, with that variance, isn't that making them sort of like? I sort of agree with what Paulie was saying, and then it made me think like. In general, the Knicks are the kind of team that's great to stack on a small slate because it is a high variant situation, which is what you want if you're playing GPPs. You want to take a shot on these 5% owned guys when look, there's a million other guys who are going to get a million minutes. If you play Dennis Smith in the right spot at the right time last year, you're winning tournaments. Meanwhile, forget the projections. Just look at what could potentially happen with their rotation.
Right. Look at the ceilings too. Like, if a guy gets minutes, what's his capability? Like, Maurice Harkless may get 35 minutes, but he's still probably only going to get 18 DraftKings points, But if Dennis Smith were to get them, he's going off. If Alonzo Trier were to get them, he's going to go off.
True that. No, I completely agree. It's the same thing. Like the same reason that I'm talking all this shit about the Knicks. And by the way, Bobby, we're both Knicks fans, so clearly we just love our team. Yeah. Just go New York, But the same reasoning it's the same reasoning everybody else is going to stay away from him. I mean, maybe Bobby Portis gets some love now because he's starting and people like to, react to that kind of stuff. But Elfrid Payton, people are terrified. He's got triple-double upside. People are terrified. People are more likely to play Malcolm Brogdon, even though, and I'm okay with Brogdon. I'm just saying, just making a point. people are probably more likely to play him because his minutes are more solidified. Even with Victor Oladipo starting, if you were worried that was going to make an impact. So I agree with you. Unfortunately, probability is a whole different aspect, a different approach. But I agree, on a tournament to get different, you got a team like the Knicks going to be extremely low owned. And I mean, there's so many variables pointing to the Knicks not being touched today. The game they had yesterday where their best player was benched for no reason and they closed with a totally different rotation. The lowest total on the board by a pretty decent margin. I think it's like, 7-8 points lower than the next closest, which is the Portland Indiana game. So that definitely interesting perspective. Bobby, talk to me a little bit more about the Sacramento OKC. I mean, you mentioned the 3-guard thing. We talked about Adams, but for those, I'm trying. I want our viewers to actually to learn something. I want to be able to pick y'all's brain. So talk to me about why that game is kind of emerging to you as a game that you may want to raise your exposure to.
Just because without Fox, like you're looking at, if you're going to play Joseph, you're going to have Heald. I think his minutes will be up in the 30s now without question. And you got Bogdanovich there, and the usage that Fox has, like, it just has to spread around to these guys. It's more of an easier game to stack and a better game to stack on FanDuel, but it is still a really strong stack on DraftKings. And again, you have the speculative plays like Len, but at the same time on OKC, like, I think somehow these guys end up getting a little bit overlooked, a little bit more than they should. The Stars and Scrubs side on DraftKings, like I love Schroeder, I love Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and I like Chris Paul. I just feel like that makes it really an easy run back in a game that should have a pretty good pace and that I think is going to still stay fairly close.
I think it makes a lot of sense. For sure. Especially, we were talking before about how the optimal build is going to be the Stars and Scrubs approach, and they're like kind of they're a mid-tier stack all the way around, both sides of it. It kind of forces you into more mid-tier plays, which naturally is going to give you a contrarian build. Even if the players you were playing, which I'm sure they still would be contrarian, but even if the players you were playing weren't contrarian, one thing like I always talk about is like sometimes like I don't like to get too caught up in the players with ownership all the time. Obviously, it's important, but sometimes I like, as long as my build is different, then I'm a little more comfortable playing a little chalkier players. As long as I know the build itself is different, then sometimes I get a little more comfortable. So I think that does make a lot of sense.
Real quick, for the listeners, Bobby, like, what do you consider a game stack?
It depends. So I always tell everybody that I think that game stack has more to do with salary allocation on large slates than it does on how many players you're using. Because you could say I'm stacking a game, and like the other night with Washington and if people were playing with Washington and Milwaukee, for example, it was really just, I think, what did I just play in that game? I may have played Bertans also. I think it was just Bertans, Bradley Beal, and Giannis, but that's basically half your funding, or not half, but like close to it.
Right.
And so you could look at that as a game stack. And then other times today, I think you're talking about some of these 6-7 man game stacks are pretty legitimate, and especially on smaller slates because of, 5% of games that go into overtime, basically. If you get that game, you're already going to cash, and you're probably going to crush if you get the right guys from it, obviously. Sometimes on big slates, you can make the same argument, but in general, I think that a game stack really it's more about salary allocation, unless you're going to play like 5 guys or more. Like tonight, I'm not going to, I don't know, man. It really does depend on, I guess, the slate, but I do think it's more about salary allocation than it is about maybe number of players from a team.
That's an interesting answer. I haven't really heard that much, but I agree.
And the funny part, people do always say they're stacking, but really they're often just running a 2v1 or a 1v1 anyway. But I still consider that a stack if it's enough of your money. Now, I like to try and correlate as much as possible, but I don't necessarily think I've gotten better as I've gotten away from that in the modern NBA these days.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Paulie with a fire question. Look at it, just coming out of nowhere and just dropping some fire questions. I do like that question because you know what, Bobby? That's a common question that we get all the time, and I'm sure you doing content on your own channel is something you've came across several times. I know you do coaching and all that kind of stuff, and it's very, very common. What constitutes as a game stack? Do I have to have 4 players? Do I have to have this? And I've always kind of looked at it the same. Me and Paulie have always discussed and kind of looked at it similarly. Obviously, the way you worded it was a lot more advanced and analytical than how we discuss it. For us, it's more, well, I ain't trying to spend all that money on them players, man. You know what I mean? It's a little less, politically correct, I guess, as you can say. But I do agree. I think salary allocation has a lot to do with it. People look at it in terms of like the spots of their roster. But what's more important than the spots of your roster is the actual salary you have to work with. So if you're spending 60, 70% of your salary on a game and it's only like 2 or 3 players, are you telling me that this is not a game stack? You just spent you invested a shit ton of whatever salary you have to work with on DraftKings and these specific players. So to me, you're pretty vested in that damn game at that point. So I do like the way you worded that, like the way you answered it. For sure. Bobby, are you more of a hand-built team guy, or are you more of an optimizer? Do you do your own projections, that kind of stuff? What's your style today?
I do both. I never leave anything without touching. Like I mean, unless I forget about it. I always go through all my lineups. I'll build, like, if I'm building, let's say I was going to play 150 lineups, I'll build like 50 or something like that through an optimizer, enter them all into things 3 times, and then just whittle my way down on DraftKings and keep, adding and removing until I get better and better. And then I always hand build all my higher buy-in tournaments.
Yeah. Do you still do the Slate Kings? Do you still offer people a way to buy into your?
Yeah, I'm on Slate Kings all the time. I've been having a great little 4-month run, and so it's been great with them. And it allows you to play a little bit more freely. Unfortunately, like, it's also sometimes a little bit hard to send the wire transfers for a bunch of money after you have a big win, but it actually feels good to have people you're playing with. It's a really fun way of doing things, and fortunately, it's been good for all parties in this case.
That's awesome, man. I know you've had a lot of success with that. I know they've reached out to Paulie a few times trying to get him on, and obviously it's something that Paulie's obviously open to it. It's how it is though, between the content and everything else, it could be tough, and you don't want to do that unless you're fully vested and able to give your full attention to the play that night. But I did think that was a cool concept in general. I mean, something, again, carried over from the poker world, so another correlation. But I thought that was a really cool concept, and I know that's something you've done, and I've seen you have some success with that. So shout out to you for that on Slate Kings. If you want to get down with Bobby Fi, you can find him a little bit over there too. All right, so why don't we do this? We got about 12 minutes to lock. Nation, if you have questions, pop them in the chat. And we're starting to get some questions, so pop them in the chat if you have any other questions. In the meantime, let me think about this. I don't want to ask something that's like too, like, I don't want to be like, give me your top 3 plays of the day, but I want something. What about top 3s? How about we do top 3s? We're not going to do like point guard, shooting guard. We'll do guards, top 3 guards overall, top 3 forwards overall, top 3 centers overall. So 3 categories. Let's get some top 3 action because we like the top 3s here. Paulie, I'm going to start with you, bro, because you know the routine. So, top 3 guards. You probably weren't. It's been a while since I dropped that one on you, so I know you weren't expecting that. But you know how we do. We get dirty. We get real dirty. Go ahead, Paulie.
All right. Bogdanovich. And I don't really want to say Rondo, but I will. Rondo. And CJ McCollum.
I was waiting. I was about to drop a pimp on you in a second. Bobby, top 3 guards, man.
Rondo, Richardson, Joseph. But if they want to get a little bit like different, Draymond and Shea.
Ooh, Draymond and Shea. All right, let's move over to forwards. Paulie, back to you. See, on DraftKings, you got that flexibility, right? You use Bogdanovic. You could have used him either or.
DraftKings.
Yeah. Julius Randle, Sabonis, and man.
And who? Who was the third one?
I didn't give you one yet.
I thought you did. My bad. Shit. All right, then. Shit.
Yeah. Give me TJ Warren.
TJ Warren. There you go. All right, Bobby, forwards.
Forwards for me, Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis. I actually have a ton of, again, this is Draymond now. I can say Draymond again. Draymond. And I'm going to go with the wild card that somehow Kuzma might be the guy who benefits also tonight. So I think he's the sleeper play for me.
I like Kuzma too, man. I'm a little nervous, obviously. They got Markieff Morris. I don't know what the fuck. I don't know where he ties in, but they got him lying around. They got different avenues. They got Quinn Cook, another point guard in the mix. They have bodies, so that makes you a little concerned in general. But, I mean, just looking at the numbers, man, we don't have a ton of sample to work with some of the newer players or guys that don't play a ton. But Kuzma was the one that showed, like, the second highest usage outside of Anthony Davis with LeBron off the court. So I don't disagree with you on that one. Paulie, real quick, before you give me your centers, what are your thoughts on Kuzma?
I like him a lot. Yeah, okay. I'm in on that. All yeah, right. I would I wouldn't be shocked if he took 20 plus shots and did a little bit of everything else.
Okay. I'm going to adjust these projections right now. Talk to me about the top 3 centers.
Yeah, so this is actually the most interesting position. I mean, it's deep. But Adams, AD, and it's an oldie but a goodie. If you want to win, you play O'Quinn.
Oh man, don't do that to me. Don't drop that mother sucker. The only thing Revenge Kyle O'Quinn.
I was so high on him earlier in the day, and I just I can't find a way to play him as much now. It kind of pisses me off.
Well, the one thing that bothered me, I'm not gonna lie, I thought about it. I mean, I used to love Kyle O'Quinn back in the day. We played for the Knicks. He got those minutes when the center was out. It was glorious. But that Norv Pele dude who did eat into some of his minutes, he's available today.
That did it for me too.
Yeah. He's available today. So that kind of scared me off O'Quinn.
Enough to change him from scoring like 35 versus like 15. Because that guy can get the roll.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he can.
Well, we used to have a motto back in the day, Bobby, last year. If you want to win, play Kyle O'Quinn. And it worked a lot of the time, but then eventually this year he kind of, I guess payback. I don't know what you want to call it. Karma? I don't know. But
it used to be hit every time. It was like the Rashawn Holmes thing when he used to be like 3,500 for Phoenix.
Yep.
We'll play. I mean, he's only going to play 18 minutes. Well, he's going to put up 35 fantasy points. You can take him or leave.
That's it. Those I like to call those the glory days. Same thing back in the day with the NFL when what's his name? Whenever Bell would be out, what's that dude's name? D'Angelo, was it Williams? What the hell was his name? But he would always ball out, man. Oh, every time Bell was out, he would just step in there and ball, and nobody ever played him because they thought he was old and he sucked. Glory days. Miss those days. Simpler time.
One other thing, by the way, we didn't mention this guy's name, and I just think maybe he's worth looking at for tournaments, and I'm starting to throw him into a few. Bielica might actually end up getting a weird sort of increase. He's another guy that can run the offense through in the half court. So with Fox gone, you see a little bit of usage uptick. So he might be an interesting pivot off of Horford, who's going to be super chalky, obviously.
Yeah, that is interesting. Bielica has done as well over the years. Really over this year. But nothing.
And he's still starting. So like he could just have a good game. Like if they're in that game, he's probably a big reason why, right? Like without Fox, they're like prone to get blown out. But if they're in that game, the stack works out. Bielica is probably a big reason for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Kings are always it's always like a stack it or leave it kind of situation with the Kings, right? Because they're always priced in that mid range where there's no reason not to play all of them, and especially a situation like this when you lose your highest usage player on the team. It always just seems like, and last year I did it all the time because they were fast. They were like the fastest team in the league, always. This year they've slowed it down, but just the way that their team is structured, the way things work. The one hard part is the minutes can be a little tricky. Obviously, like we saw Bielica was playing a ton of 5 just a little bit ago before Alex Len was cleared to play, and then Jabari was cleared. They gave him one shot, and he was Jabari. But, the Bielica thing's interesting, especially from the perspective foul trouble is going to be a real thing. Alex Len and Giles trying to get Adams is a big mother sucker, man. He's strong, too. So they may have no choice. He might be the only one left by the end of it. So I think that's a good point. And as always, the Kings once again make for that mid-tier stack action type of deal. We got 5 minutes to Lock Nation. Make sure you're in there finalizing your teams. I'm going to do a quick export and try to get some questions up in here. I know I saw a lot of you guys with some questions. So, I'm going to start asking them in just a second here. What the oh no, we good. I thought I lost the stream for a second, but that was my bad. We're good. Okay, let me pop up some YouTube action here. I'm gonna have both of you answer this. Double the fun, right? So, filling starting. Okay, man, he just told me how to pronounce his name, and I still forget it. Abra, you know who I'm talking about. ABRA, Abra. Bog Rich or Buddy Portis for DraftKings GPP.
Wait. Oh, sorry.
What happened?
Yeah, I'm saying.
Same? Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah,
next question we got. Okay, this is a FanDuel question. I'm not sure if you guys check out the FanDuel pricing, but our boy Juice wants to know. He said he's thinking about punting both small forward spots on FanDuel. What do y'all think?
You're playing Whiteside, and I don't love Whiteside, but I still might end up with him because it's just too hard not to on FanDuel. So I'm okay with it, but I don't think you need to do it.
Any thoughts, Paulie?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm all right with that. I'm fine punting him.
No doubt. We are 4 minutes to Lock Nation. Make sure you are finalizing your squads. doing what you got to do. You don't want to get caught with you know what in your hands. Yeah, that was one of the funniest. Yo, Bobby, I'm sure you get trolled once in a while, right? Like every once in a while, guys hit you up on Twitter. They say when you do content, you have to. It comes with the territory, right? There was this one time, fucking hilarious, and I think Paulie, man, he's giving the nation some good takes. I remember that baseball season, the Matt Adams day. He just told everybody in the chat, play Matt Adams, double dong. He said some moments like that, but obviously with that comes some whiffs. And there was one player, I think he asked Paulie about a cash game question, and Paulie was like, nah, I don't think you need it. And then he hit Paulie up on Twitter and was like, oh, yeah, you told me not to play this guy. Now I'm sitting here with my dick in my hands. So the good ones, the good ones you hold on to forever. The good ones you hold on to. Because everybody's got feelings. Sometimes you get some shit, you get a little numb to them, push them to the side. But so once in a while, they drop a good one on you. And you're just like, that's actually really funny. It's like, you know. All right. Let's see. Okay. Barnes or Ariza on FanDuel?
Barnes for me.
That was from Juwan Holt. Paulie, Barnes or Ariza on FanDuel?
I'll take Ariza.
I'm with it. Anybody who hasn't that like button, please hit that like button. Appreciate all of you who have joined in. We're obviously winding down here unless we get any crazy ass news that comes out. But in the meantime, it's been a blast. We're about 2 minutes to lock. I'm going to answer whatever question I can. But if you haven't hit the like button, please hit the like button. Our boy OGMG from the WiseTake Nation, longtime WiseTake member. Where is Cash to talk about JaVale? I know, right? And where is Cash? Where's Cash to talk about Kyle O'Quinn? Shit, for him to get down on that would have been nice. Back in the good old days. Here we go. Another question from our boy Nick. Do you think Toscano Anderson has some upside?
Not for me. You don't need it today for me, but I do think he does. But I would not do it.
I agree. Like not today, but yes, he does have upside.
Agreed. I'll third that. He has upside, but with the Warriors getting, I don't know if you want to call them healthy, because I think they have been healthy, just playing conservatively. But with Draymond coming back, just more bodies on the court. It's just to project his minutes at this point is difficult. And if we had to, sure. But again, like they said, I just don't think you have to. You know, there was one value player, and then like this means nothing, even if we all change our mind, because we have a minute, so we're not going to be able to get the change in. But I'm really surprised with how the Sixers have used Alec Burks. I don't know. Like they went out and traded him. I thought that was a really good pickup, and they just really haven't done anything with him. I mean, I understand Furkan Korkmaz was just in God mode the other day. I understand like situations have happened. Shake Milton's played well, but is anybody else a little surprised with how little they've used Alec Burks?
A little bit, but I think that that's one of the guys who I think is an interesting, like completely off the board play tonight. Just because the way the minutes have gone, I don't think they're necessarily going to keep going that way without Simmons. So I think you're going to see him play more.
I agree. Paulie?
Yeah, they definitely went out and got him for a reason. And these are the kind of slates where, like, that guy's capable of popping off. They obviously have a lot of usage to go around. But to answer your question, like, yeah, like what, was he just like, like I thought they were getting him because they needed a reliable shooter in the fourth quarter, right? I mean, maybe Korkmaz has just been so good shooting from the outside that they just, haven't needed to deploy him. But in my mind, that was the reason. Like, they needed somebody to knock down shots when they're, trying to win a game in the last 10 seconds kind of thing. That's certainly not so far.
One thing I will say, now that it's locked and it's officially too late to do anything about it, one thing I will say is I do believe Alec Burks, so when MB got hurt in the second half, they started Tybal, which made no sense to me, right? He's like a defensive specialist, and the Knicks, like, I don't know. But I do believe Alec Burks is the one who closed. So this is a spot where I don't think they're going to need Tybal much. I mean, is there a wing defender you're worried about? You got Elf, who, granted, have some offensive skills, but shooting is not really one of them. Maybe Alonzo Trier. Maybe that's the way Tybal sticks around, Paulie. Alonzo Trier gets hot, so they bring in Tybal to try to shut him down. Maybe that's what it is.
I got 20% Trier.
There you go.
Check this out. Julius Randle is owned on FanDuel. I know there's a lot of options at power forward, but this is crazy.
What is he?
Take a guess.
Guess what?
8%.
Yeah, you got it.
8%?
I thought after the news, I would thought he was going to get more, because that's the only thing. I mean, with all, they have like 19 big men. When one goes, oh man, I think that's a steal.
Oh damn, that's wild.
85% Tobias Harris.
85% Tobias. Wait. You're saying Tobias? Oh, on FanDuel, yeah, the ownership. Yeah, he was cheap. That makes sense. All right, Nation, that's gonna do it for today's show. Bobby, it's always a pleasure, man. Always a lot of fun, and definitely not gonna be a stranger around here, bro. We're gonna bring you on, whenever we can do it, man. We always have a good time doing these shows with you. So much appreciated. Don't forget to check out Bobby Fi on Twitter. Don't forget to check out, he's got the YouTube channel. He's doing the stuff for RotoQL. So Bobby, I'll give you some closing words to all the people listening, man. Take it away. Do what you do.
Yeah, have me back on. I would love to be on with you guys anytime. Really enjoy it. It's really fun talking with you guys, and always feels like a real natural, easy fit. And yeah, you can see me. You check me out, Bobby Firestone, on my YouTube channel, on the QLTV channel. Yeah, check me out on Twitter at Bobby Fi, and appreciate you guys hanging in there with me. And yeah, thanks for letting me on, guys.
Awesome, man. Great time, great show, Nation. You know what we do. We'll be back at it tomorrow. For Paulie D, for Bobby Fi, myself, the entire WiseTake Nation, as always, hit that damn like button and good luck.
Yeah.